what is going on? You're watching episode 6, the penultimate episode of Ryan Sierra Commander Deck Profiles 7 episode series. This is a trial run. You know how there's like a 7-day free trial for stuff? That's what we're on about. Today we're looking at how to anger your LGS in 6 fucking turns. Just 6. That's all you need! Maybe it might have something to do with this shit. Where is it? Time stretch. Alright, so, without further ado, we're looking at Tappedout Landfall, which is, I guess, according to Tappedout, my other second competitive deck. So it's right up there with the Azorius Humans. So, wowie zowie. Alright, so we've got, of course, the name of the game with Tappedout is she says when a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life and draw 1 card. The idea is to have, I don't know, nearly 50 lands in your deck. So that way you search for them with things that search for lands. And basically, in so doing, you draw a bunch of cards. The goal is to then be able to say, hey, is my devotion to blue greater than 0? And if the answer is yes, then yes. Okay, so AC Tyrant of Gyre Strait is basically another Tatyova that is slightly better, but is more expensive. Funny story about AC, this is actually the deck that got me back into Commander. I used to play Commander back in 2017, and I didn't really get it. It was actually my first time ever playing Commander, and it wasn't until the Commander Legends pre-cons of 2020, with AC and like the Kaldheim elves and stuff getting really big back then, that things got crazy. Also, spoiler alert, the Kaldheim elf, the green-black deck, was how I made Marwyn. So we have, of course, AC. He's a fun landfall. We got Arbor Elf, which is untap a forest. I don't know why I have that in here. Avenger of Zendikar, obviously, synergizes with landfall. Dibbity-da. Azusa, Lost But Seeking. You can play 2 additional lands, so effectively 3 in total. That's super good. Birds of Paradise. It's just a good card to have in green and blue. This can tap for green or blue. Really, obviously, you might think that this is like a 5-drop card, and really, or not 5-drop, but it's in like in a 5-color card. It is a 5-color card too, but I really just use it as any multicolor. Coiling Oracle, obviously looking for that land. Farhaven Elf, looking for that land. Leveler, flip your deck so that way. Flip your deck earlier, actually. You know what? Screw it. Why even search your deck for lands just to draw a shit ton to then do fastest? Just leveler it, bro. Then we got Llanowar Elves, just for some good early ramp, of course. Llanowar Scout, that's a card that you really need in a deck like this. You really need a card that's going to say tap, put a land out. The ramp is ultimately going to be in the lands. It is not going to be in the mana dorks. This, in a certain sense, therefore, is the exact opposite, really the antithesis to Marwyn. Tatyova is all about, getting all those lands out, really... mana through lands, absolutely. Classic fair mana. I promise, so fair, such a fair deck. Doesn't get people mad at all. I promise. But Marwyn, obviously the opposite. You want to actually cut down on lands to make a bunch of elves that tap for mana. Alas, Lotus Cobra, super fun in this deck because when a land enters, you float another land or another mana. What I do is I like to alternate. So if I put out a forest, have Lotus Cobra float a blue. Sakura Tribuilder, obviously you get that land when you sack it. Scaled Herbalist, basically a Llanowar Scout. Scourge of Fleets is basically a card in here that I originally didn't have for a while, and it's from, of course, the AC Krakens, the AC Precon, but basically... Return each creature to your opponent's control with toughness X or less, where X is the number of islands you control. I've got like 16 islands, so anything 16 or less goes back to the hand that, of course, opponents control. So it's a pretty good board clear. Seaborn Muse, I'm going to be real with you. I don't know why I have this card in here. I don't have anything that I'm actually trying to untap for, because, I mean, yes and no. Right, I mean, I've got these cards, like, how silly would it be to do Llanowar Scout and Scaled Herbalist on the opponent's turn, right? I mean, there's stuff that can happen, but this isn't necessarily a deck that has too much interaction. It's a deck that quickly scrambles to deck itself, so that way it can win with Thoracle. Shipbreaker Kraken. When it becomes monstrous, if this creature isn't monstrous, put 4/1 counters on it and it becomes monstrous. I guess so that means you technically pay another 8 after it's on the field. Tap up to 4 creatures. Those creatures don't untap during their controller's untap steps for as long as you control Shipbreaker Kraken. Basically, it's a fun way to say, hey, much like the Scourge of the Fleets was like, get bent with all your creatures while I, draw and dirtle. This is also a get bent while I draw and dirtle, right? Um, you know, but yeah, I mean, or at least not get bent necessarily as much as it is just shush shush, stay quiet, Um, Sky Shroud Ranger, once again, another instance of tap, put a land out. Springbloom Druid, beautiful in this deck, because landfall is every bit of landfall counts. Um, Thrasios I have in here as a way to pump. At some point, I'll notice that I have like a lot of lands out and a lot of mana that I can't really do anything with, unlike an Elf Ball. So what I decided to do is I'm like, look, I need more pump creatures. So I throw Thrasios in there because he can just be pumped indefinitely, right, as long as you have the stuff for it. Wood Elves, obviously land fetch. Azusa's Many Journeys, get that additional land. Exploration, get that additional land. Colony, when you play 3 lands, put 2 more out just for fun. Rites of Flourishing, additional land. Teferi, why draw 1 when you can draw 2? Thought Reflection, why draw 2 when you can draw 4? Obviously we got Circuitous Route, land fetch, a bit of land fetch, sort of. Additional land, rather. Land fetch, land fetch. Boring draw, land fetch, really good land fetch. I remember this one time I was playing with a friend of mine, we'll call him Blue, and I counterspelled his Nissa's Renewal, and it was when I was still new to like Magic, coming back in with the AC precon, oh man, it was so funny, it was so mean of me, and I'll never do that again actually, because Nissa's Renewal is such a good card, and it's just ramp. Ramp is so much fun. Let's see, Rampant Growth, search library for a card, Rite of Replication. Rite of Replication, what I do with Rite of Replication is I like to go ahead and I copy, like, I mean, it depends what I'm trying to do, right? Like, generally, I mean, you make 5 copies, obviously, of a creature that you can do that with, so, like, not like Azusa, but, you could do it with Avenger of Zendikar if you want, like, a lot of stuff. Um, I I often find myself doing it with like Lotus Cobra because that creates a lot of mana when a single land comes out. It can get pretty degenerate. I mean, it can get insane. Um, you could make a bunch of Seaborn Muses. I mean, Springbloom's a lot of fun because you make 5 Springbloom Druids, so 6 in total, and the 5 new ones that come out, they ETB, so they ETB Springbloom Druid's effect. So, you make 5 and, cast it for 9, make 5. 5 other Springbloom Druids come out, and you basically fetch 10 lands. And that is insanity, because then you're absolutely going to deck yourself if you're not careful. Because I don't have Lab Jace in here, because I put Lab Jace in my other deck. So, it's now, I have to actually be smart with this a bit. Or just make sure I draw into Leveler and Thassa, right? Or Thoracle. Scape Shift, this is a fun one. This is such a fun one. I mean, the fact that you can just say, sacrifice a number of lands and then put a number of lands back in that. So you basically cycle your basics into non-basics is a way to do it if you care about putting non-basics out. Skyshroud Claim, more Forest Search. Time Stretch is the thing that really makes this deck spooky, because I will get to 10 mana in no time flat, and then I will basically say, look, I got 2 turns, and I'm gonna dirtle again, and have a blast until I get to where I need to be. And sometimes, and it sucks because the way that this deck seems to work a lot, and the way that Time Stretch seems to work, just my luck. My luck is that, excuse me, dry throat. My luck is that I will always find that I either actually am winning like immediately that next turn with that extra turn from Time Stretch, or I need like all 3 of those turns, right? Like, the first turn, the first normal turn, that first extra turn, and that very last, second extra turn. So that third turn. It's just the way it works. I mean, it's so weird. It's always polarizing. It's never, I never, can just get it to be perfect. It's always like I either am already winning, or I am like stalling out, and then I can figure out a way, and it's like, oh, thank God. Urban Evolution, draw 3 cards and we play additional land this turn. Yep, I mean, that's a classic card to have in that. And Vastwood Surge is another land fetch. Here's, obviously some ramps, but obviously this is like a land ramp, gets it into your hand. You can then throw it out of your hand with Llanowar Scout. Jeweled Lotus, Mana Crypt, all this stuff. Good stuff. Thought Vessel's great. No max hand size. I'm not playing Graveyard Shenanigans, so I need all those cards in my hand that I'm drawing. And it's a counter spell for good measure. And then obviously the lands. Quite a few of these are going, like, I love the Broker's Hideout, Cabrady Courtyard, and there's like a third one, I believe, that came from New Capenna, Obscura Stormfront. They basically read like they come in, they sack immediately. So they basically it's like here's a land, gain a life, draw a card of Tatiova. Then it has to sack. Then I have to get a card out. It's a lot of it's so much fun. Oh man, this deck is fun.